exactly know?
I have no idea.
Yeah, let's keep it to alternative energy. Alan, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
What size do these solar panels come in?
What size? They come anywhere from 1 volt, which is just like one solar cell. It's actually half a volt. To the biggest ones I've seen are like 400 watts. So you can get 1 watt to 400 watts.
Oh.
And you could have a solar panel that was 3 kilowatts. The reason they make them this size is because if you made a really big solar panel, then it would be really hard to carry and move around. But if you have solar panels this size, you can ship them easily, and you can just connect them together with wires when you get them there.
Yeah, because I got one that's like this big.
Right. And that's probably like 10 watts or something like that.
Yeah,
What's the difference between watts and volts?
It's only like a little, like the little, like 2 little, like flashing lights.
Watts is work.
Oh,
It's
so
the actual
watts?
measure of work being done.
So is it
current,
watts? So watts is
Hey,
like amperage?
Parker,
No.
listen for a second. Listen.
current is the strength of work. So how much work can be done in a certain amount of time? How many electrons are flowing? Watts is actually figured out by multiplying amperage times voltage to figure out the potential for the work being done, the work that's being done, and then you have watts, which is the actual measure of the work being done.
So it's basically the overall measure of electricity.
Right.
Combining volts and
It's a measure of work, just like horsepower.
So it's basically like, the speed and muscle of the horse, and then that's the overall statistic. That's cool.
Yeah. And every single electrical device in your house will have a wattage rating, which is how many watts it's going to use.
How much grunt?
Right, and then we figure out, if you use watts over time, you can figure out kilowatt hours, which is how we measure electricity.
Do you have a resource that I know Alan's working on detailing different types of solar and alternative energy systems? Do you have a software that you use or a parts list with prices associated with them?
I have a parts list. I could send you the parts list for our company. It wouldn't be that accurate, though, because it would be the pricing for the company.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send you a price list.
Yeah, just so we can figure out how to piece together, like a consumer,
Right.
or we could provide a range of solar products
Right.
just for informational use.
Yeah, that's no problem. In fact,
Alright.
I could probably get the consumer price list from one of my distributors. Send that over.
I'll send you an email.
Yep. Yeah, that's no big deal.
Seamus, do you have any questions about for your project and how?
I do have one question about the solar panels.
Yeah.
I remember back from last year when we were doing the solar project, getting the panels in the school. All the efficiency levels of the panels were between 13–14%.
Yep.
Can you tell us why that is?
That's just basically how the way that they make the silicon solar cells and the wiring. That's how efficient that they can get it at this time. They are trying to do different things. Like when you make a solar cell, basically they take silicone and they make it into wafers, and they do this process called doping, which is what makes it basically conduct electricity. It turns it into a semiconductor. Those processes, they aren't perfect yet. So there's actually panels that are like 18 and 19% efficient, but those panels, they cost a ridiculous amount of money. So when you talk about efficiency, they're nice, but when you talk about economic efficiency, they're not nice. And that's just the way that the panel is made. You have losses, and I don't know how much you know about electrical systems, but pretty much all electrical systems, the only reason they're losing power is because of heat. So when there's electron flow, there's heat. So this panel would be a lot more efficient if it was able to A, absorb more sunshine, and B, stay cooler.
So basically,
That's why they're better in the winter.
That's why they're better in the winter, right? The perfect day is a winter day where it's really, really sunny out.
And I remember seeing somewhere that they were saying that solar panels are 8 times more efficient in orbit. Is that just because there's no atmosphere in between us and the sun?
It's not 8 times. It's like 1.43 times. But they might be even more efficient because of the temperatures in space.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like negative.
So they're never getting really hot. Right.
So if you install an air conditioner, a cheap air conditioner for a solar panel, then their efficiency would go through the roof.
Well, their efficiency would go through the roof, but you'd be using more electricity than you're making because an air conditioner takes so much electricity to make.
A low tech, like air fan.
Fans still, they're using a lot of wattage.
Hey, Aiden, your project was you were showing the generation of power. Do you have any questions on anything that could be useful?
Have you
I know a little bit about wind power, yeah.
Do you know the cylinder-looking wind generator?
You talking about the helix generators, the vertical ones? Yeah.
It
Yes,
sort of looks
I know.
like a can that's spinning.
Right, yeah, and they stand instead of being like a typical turbine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about those. A little
They
bit.
come in much smaller
If there was one an acre by an acre, they would power around 75,000 homes.
Right, yeah, I've seen they're building one of those in Australia, I believe.
Didn't know that. Oh, yeah. Do you know anything about hydro energy?
A little bit, less than I know about wind and solar.
That's pretty fair. Because that's another part of it. I'm studying all three.
What would you like to know about hydropower?
Like how much does it take to power like a whole house?
It's extremely variable. You gotta figure out case by case because what happens is, depending on your water source, so you take this hydro generator, you put it in the water, right? Depending on how much water is flowing at that point, both speed and volume is how much power you're gonna generate. So how much it takes to power a house all depends on what the water source is. And that's how you figure it out.
The best way to power a house is a big aquatic.
Yeah, and a lot of volume. For instance, if you had a stream that was moving quickly, you might not get as much power as a river that's moving slowly because there's not enough water volume. Because essentially what the water is doing, it's being channeled through a small area and it's turning a turbine.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So basically, isn't a waterfall the best way to harness
I think a waterfall is not... The waterfall after the hydro is typically how it is. The hydro is typically on the top of a waterfall because the waterfall is concentrating the energy.
But isn't it, yeah.
And then it falls and it continues on.
Because it's faster there. It's going really, really, really fast.
Right. Well, and it's
Or it
also,
goes out
it's
quick.
yeah, and it's concentrated. Whereas if you did it at the bottom of the waterfall, the water flow wouldn't be concentrated into the turbine.
No, but what if you did it, like, as the water, like, the water got on a tube, and then into the hydro dam thing, like, while it was falling?
That's almost what it does at the top of the waterfall. Is it funnels itself?
Is it going faster at the top, or at the middle?
It's going fast at the top. I believe that that's where the best concentration is. It might be going pretty fast in the middle. It seems like gravity would make it go a little faster in the middle, but at the bottom it slows down.
Yeah, but what could you do it towards the middle bottom, like, not the topper part? You could just have this little tube where the water falls down.
You
Turns the
could,
turbine
and I'm not sure if
into
people are working on that or not, but clearly it's more efficient to have it the way they have it now, or else they would have changed it.
Is solar power, is there solar power being generated in this building?
This building is the Carpenter's Hall. We just rent this little space for them for solar training.
Uh-huh.
The building across the street, currently no, but my company's installing a tracking system for them up front. Their roof is in very poor condition, so they'll need to repair it.
Okay.
And until it's repaired, we're not going to put solar on, but we're putting a tracking system up front, and then later on, we're adding solar panels for the
Cool.
roof.
Hey, can you show the tracking system?
It's not up yet.
Oh.
It's actually being ordered right now.
Anyone else have any questions?
No,
Before we,
can you show us that briefcase that you
Oh,
brought?
can we see that?
I can show you the solar panel.